Rajendra Chola, that is the son of Rajaraja Chola. Rajaraja Chola is the person, was one of the most prominent kings of the Chola Empire. In fact, the movie Ponniyin Selvan by Maniratnam was built on
Inspired.
the
Yeah, yeah.
Cholas. So he built the Brihadishwara temple. The Brihadishwara temple is, for those who have not visited southern Tamil Nadu, it is one of the most iconic temples in Tanjavur in Tamil Nadu. It was built around 1100 CE, and it's still strong. It is one of the most. It has withstood many earthquakes.
Yeah.
There's not a single, unlike the monuments in Europe, it doesn't, slant or anything like that. It is still considered a huge engineering marvel. So Rajaraja Chola actually built the temple. His son Rajendra Chola, he was the one who traversed who went across the oceans in Southeast Asia and much of northern India to conquer. And one of the reasons why he went to Southeast Asia is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Because often we think that when you conquer, you go to all these places, you would want to rule those places.
Yeah.
If you really, notice, the Cholas conquered these places, but they did not rule Southeast Asia. There's a very important reason, because the Cholas were financed by this guild, this corporate guild I call Sreni as a name in Sanskritam, called Ain Nuruvar. It's called 500 in Tamil. It is a guild which is basically developed. It is a Sreni which is developed in Karnataka by a group of Brahmins. But it became so big that it became a large multinational corporation. It was
Mm.
financing not just the Cholas. It had offices in Champa in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Jakarta today, for example, in Sumatra, in Thailand, in Singapore, for example. All these places had sort of offices and sub offices of this guild. So they were basically the major traders. So basically, the Srenis, just to give you some context, these Srenis were financial combination of a multinational corporation and also a sort of a trade body, say like a FICI or CII.
Yeah.
Imagine them combined with, say, a multinational
Corporate
corporation.
structure.
Right?
Yeah.
So these guilds were sort of trading across from the Middle East to Bharat to Southeast Asia, and they were doing a variety of trades on variety of items like perfumes, like metals, minerals, like spices, you name a product.
Sure.
Most of them were traded by these entities. So these guys were trading in the Straits of Malacca. So for example, when you go to Singapore and when you travel to Singapore, you have the Straits of Malacca. You need to cross to go to the base of Malaysia, which is basically Singapore. And they had to go via the Straits of Malacca onto China. If they had to cross to China. So when you're going from India, you go by the Bay of Bengal and the Straits of Malacca, and then go past Singapore, and then you go all the way upwards towards China, right? So what happened is the Srivijaya Empire, which is ruling Indonesia at that time, stifled these guilds for some political reason. They didn't want them to function. So because of the fact that they financed the Cholas and they were so powerful, that the Cholas had to go all the way from Bharat to Southeast Asia to liberate the guilds, so that they fought the Srivijaya Empire to ensure that the Ainu Srini was functioning and trade and commerce was happening.
Mm.
And that led them to, travel all the way and conquer. So that is why, the Cholas conquered but did not rule these places. So this is a very important incident and it encapsulates everything, right?
Right.
Uh, there are three major lessons that one can derive. First of all, this idea of trading for multinational corporations and multinational entities was the norm in all these places, even in early century CE. The pace of it might be lesser, the extent of the instantaneous sort of updates must be lesser, but the structural things were there of
Correct.
what a multinational entity is. Two, commerce and trade was driving a lot of these things, and the politicians, the political establishment was responding to it. Right?
Mm.
It's not that the politicians or the rulers went and conquered these places, and that led to trade and commerce. It was the other way around. Right? ideas, exchange of ideas, exchange of trade, exchange of goods and services were the front runners, and the political sort of hierarchy followed them, right? And third, more importantly, the idea of wealth creation, the idea of entrepreneurial spirit. You had these entities who were traveling oceans just to trade products, right? And the entrepreneurial zeal, and sort of um, global leaders put it that way in what they were doing. For example, the architecture that I'm talking about in the Brihadishwara temple during that time was unparalleled anywhere in the world, right?
Correct.
So they were sort of thought leaders and sort of leading, I would say, the entire sort of intellectual and economic process. And that, I think, is a very important thing, because young people need to understand that we were not just thought leaders, we were economic global champions during this time, doing things that any of the other civilizations were not doing during those times. And a lot of our marvels still remain today. So what I'm trying to say, so this is an example where you see that a combination of these guilds, a combination of Kautilyan Dharmic capitalism in terms of the parameters of it, were driving a lot of these entities.